welcome back to Kelly's Chronicles. Hope all of you have had a wonderful week. We have our favorite guest back with us today, Dad, Chuck, and we've had a little bit of technical difficulties last week. Sorry we didn't post another video. I actually lost the video because I'm learning how to edit, and I'm learning all this new technology, so I had a little bit of a learning experience with this, but we're back with you, and hopefully you can enjoy this week's podcast. So how has your week been, Dad? What have you been up to?
Well, I've been busy, just trying to do a bunch of little things around here. There's a lot of little things, and like your aunt's drain in the flat bathtub was stopped up, and I've been working trying to get that. I don't know what's wrong with it.
Yeah.
Totally stopped up, and I've been out chopping down thistles and making ice runs for your mom to keep chicken meat cold. And,
Yeah.
they're done slaughtering chickens now. They've slaughtered like 28 birds. And,
Yeah, they do that every year, don't they?
Yeah, but
Yeah,
they did a few for the neighbors this year. The neighbors had some old laying hens that they wanted to get rid of, and we got them done. So
yeah, the life of living out on a farm.
Good, and the goats are being weaned, and they're noisy and crying all night long. And yeah,
so, they miss their moms.
Yeah, it's just a typical farm day.
Yeah, weaning is a rough time of the year for the babies. It's noisy and they miss their moms. The moms miss the babies, but it's got to be done. It's very important. So, and then you guys save the milk and you butcher the chickens for the meat. And I don't think you did pigs or cows this year, did you?
No.
Yeah, none of that this year. Maybe next year.
Fencing done. I'm still working to cross fence the pasture, and that's not quite done. We got all the posts set, and we got the first wire down that we use to set the post. You have to have a wire to keep everything straight. We got that down. We got to do I think I'm going to do maybe slick wire. I don't think I want to do barbed wire. Everybody's saying you need it. So I'm going to do 2 more slick wire and then a hot wire on top. And that'll keep, if I put it down about 1.5 foot from the top, then it keeps the cattle from going under and the horses from going over.
Okay, but they can still put their head over the fence and enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah, let them look over. Oh, that'll be good. Yeah, we just got back into the States. We were over in Canada, and we were over there for about 3 weeks. That was quite an experience, and it was a lot of land that we tracked. So, boy, I tell you what, I could have kissed the ground when I made it back over to the United States. I miss being at home. Canada's beautiful, but I love being back in my own country. So, I got way too much chocolate while I was over there. They got some good chocolate. Got some good chocolate over there. But yeah, we're over in Philadelphia now, so over here in Philly. And just enjoying the really hot weather. It's about 94 degrees, and we did load in yesterday for the tour with 99 degrees and about 100% humidity. And it was hot. So we're recovering now. We're recuperating. So today we kind of just wanted to go over back to the start of your life growing up and how you grew up and what your family life was like and how your mom and dad were like and your grandparents, and maybe talk about a couple of fun little stories that I remember from when you were a kid that you told. And you grew up in the South, but you also grew up going all over the country in a trailer, going from base to base with your dad, just kind of chasing your dad around in the Air Force. So we just wanted to kind of go over that today, have some fun stories and some fun memories that you can recall. So, so where exactly did you start your life out at? Where were you born?
Okay. Well, my parents were living in Burlington, Colorado, which is like 10 miles from the Kansas line. It's in far eastern Colorado. And the only hospital within 100 miles was in Goodland, Kansas. So when it came time for me to be introduced to the world, we had to drive. We drove to Goodland, Kansas, about 30 miles away, which is in far western Kansas. So I
Yeah.
was born. I was born in about as west as you can get. I was west of Dodge City, west of Dallas, west of Houston, west of most of the Dakotas, and most of Nebraska.
And
But I
out in
was
the
still
middle of
a Kansas.
nowhere.
So I would prefer to have been a Coloradian, but that's okay. Kansas is,
Ah, well, they
and
brought you back to Colorado after you were born.
yeah, and the hospital that was so, so crucial to that area is gone. It was Booth
Really?
Ray Memorial Hospital, and it's gone. There's a new hospital there, and Burlington's got a hospital now. So
Oh,
yeah,
Burlington's grown a little bit, but it's still very tiny. It's very tiny little
yeah,
city out there. It's
yeah.
grown a
It's
little bit,
like,
even on the interstate. It's growing, so I noticed that. Still
yeah,
very tiny.
Burlington's got about 5,000 people, and Goodland's got about 10,000, 15,000. It actually had a TV station.
Oh
I don't
wow,
know if still have one or not.
it's grown. So after that, so you spent a little bit of time there, and did your parents stay together, or did they get divorced?
Yeah, yeah, my mom, actually what you call a war bride. She was married. She was married to Dad during the war, during World War II, and they was kind of funny because they're third cousins,
Mm-hmm.
and they
I heard
they
about
were
that.
both working. Dad was still in the Marines, and this was like in say '43. Dad was in the Marines, and Mom was working at the Hastings Naval Ammunition Plant in Hastings, Nebraska, which is about, she's from Lincoln area, so it's about 150 miles uh, west of Lincoln, out in the prairie out there.
Okay.
And just as a side thing, they met and I guess started dating and everything at the factory. I haven't really verified that, but that's how I imagine it. And anyway, while they were there, there was a train load of naval mines, which is the kind, looks like a big ball with spikes on it. And they were being transported. They had already finished them, and they were on a train heading for California. And it exploded right, just right at the edge of the ammunition depot, and killed a bunch. About, I think it killed like 11 people.
Oh my
Totally
goodness.
demolished the train and the tracks and everything. And fortunately, my parents survived, which is obvious. I'm here, and and Dad has carried this little piece of railroad track about a foot long. He carried it everywhere we've moved. I remember seeing this railroad track when I was like 5 years old.
Okay.
Come to find out, if you look at the track, it's the end of a railroad track because they lay tracks in like 20-foot lengths. This is one of the ends, and one end is cut off and the other end is blown off. See where
Oh,
it was sheared and twisted away from the rest of the track. He found that a quarter of a mile away from the ammunition depot, laying out in the grass out there in the prairie. And he's carried it ever since as a souvenir of his adventure in Hastings.
of surviving of not
And then,
getting exploded.
right, and then when Dad, uh, they got married, and Dad didn't get out of the Marines until '46. and I was born in '47. So they were back and forth. Dad was, when he got out of the Marines, he went back to Burlington, started working in the Buick garage there in town. And uh, mom's dad, my grandfather, Grandpa Minshaw, decided he was a restaurateur. So
Ah,
he opened up a restaurant in Loveland, Colorado, which is 150 miles west of Burlington, just north of Denver.
right.
And he opened up this little restaurant. He was trying to get business. They were building, at that time, they were building what's called the Big Thompson Project, which is there's a river called the Big Thompson River that runs down out of the Rockies. And they were trying to dam it up and divert the water to Denver. And they had all of this big engineering people and they'd been working on it for like 20 years. And anyway, they had all these, like a lot of ex-military guys that needed work. And they went to Big Thompson Project. And there was like other guys, like farm kids and stuff that were working there. Basically, what I understand was basically veterans that got work there. And anyway, my grandfather opens up this restaurant. And he has two daughters, my mom, Ruby, and my aunt, Bonnie, and
Hmm.
said, "We need you to work as waitresses in our restaurant." So they said, "Okay, Dad." And so mom, and this is right after I was born, so mom drops everything and drives to Loveland, starts working in the restaurant, and Dad's still in Burlington, and I'm living with Grandma. Uh, at the same time, my older half brother was there. He was there living with Grandma, and
Okay.
Mom was in Loveland. And apparently, they had that the house that Grandma lived in was pretty small. Grandma Olson, she was pretty
Hmm.
small, maybe 900, maybe 1,000 square feet.
Oh, that's
And,
tiny.
and so there was only two bedrooms and one bath. So Dad went out and bought or rented or borrowed a little travel trailer. One of the ones you see, they're like 20 feet long, little dinky things. And
Tiny.
that's where we lived. Me and my older brother and and Dad. And then during the day, I assumed that Grandma babysat for us. And anyway, make a long story short, Mom meets uh, this Army guy, a veteran,
Hmm.
was uh, working on Big Thompson, and they fell in love. She divorced Dad and married this guy, so the guy. And the reasoning that Mom always gave, and I still love my mom, both my moms, my stepmother and my biological mother, loved him.
Yeah.
She goes off with this guy. She said, "I always wanted to be a farm wife. I want to be a
Hmm.
farmer's wife." And your dad hated farming, so I knew we were not ever going to be on a farm with him. And because see, the thing about it was, Dad was when he was like in high school. Grandma and Grandpa Olson moved out to a farm north of Bethune, Colorado, which is about 30 miles west of Burlington. And they
And that
got a
was
farm
during
that
the
was
Dust Bowl. That was in
right, and they got a
1920.
farm that was 15 miles north of Bethune, and Bethune only had like 300 people in it, and they're up 15 miles north of that on a dirt road, and they tried dairy farm. I'm pretty that nobody's really verified this, but I'm pretty sure it was a dairy farm because it was a dust bowl. They couldn't raise any crops,
Correct.
so so to try dairy farming, and they could just buy hay and keep their Anyway, Dad uh, was like about 17. I think he was a senior in high school, and Grandpa Olson, they needed money. I mean, they were starving to death, eating beans and bacon, so in the Dust Bowl, and so Dad, or Grandpa Olson, found this other dairy farmer who needed help. And so Dad moved over to this other farm
Okay.
and milked 34 cows morning and night for about a year for a dollar a day. But that dollar a day kept my family, my aunts and uncles, and my grandma and grandpa and my father from starving to death. That dollar a day was enough to buy food for the whole family. And then I think they had a little bit of income from the dairy farm. Not much, because you don't make much dairy farming. Anyway, Dad, after that experience, he said, I am never going to farm, period. I'm done. I'm done.
And
I mean, you milk one cow morning and night, and it's a chore.
that's hard work.
You're up at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, milking until the sun comes up, like 7 or whatever. Then you gotta, then somebody got to do cream separation, because the dairy farms, that's how they made their money, was selling cream, not so much milk, cream. And so somebody had to run the cream separator and package that up. They had special cans they put the cream in. They're a little smaller than milk cans. And all that had to be done, and it's done every day, milk twice a day, do all the cream separation, and probably feeding the cows. I mean, it was, Dad was a slave for a dollar a day.
Yeah, I would say so.
That just burned him out on farming. And plus, the family farm, I'm sure you probably
got
did a lot of that work too. And yeah, I got a lot of stories about Dad, but
oh yeah, we'll definitely
get back to me. Okay.
So
a funny story. Here's a funny story. My brother and me were out one day, and I was probably about 2, and somebody had drug a mattress out in the yard, a set of box springs, and they were kind of like sitting over by themselves. They weren't like around any of the trailer or anything. They're just like waiting for take to the dump, I guess. Anyway, so my brother Larry, he gets the bright idea of, let's go jump on the mattress. Okay, so I went out and we started jumping on the mattress. Well, guess what? There was a bee's nest in the box spring. Back then, box springs were open, or just like it was like an open set of springs held together with metal. That way you didn't have all this covering like you got now. And the bees had gotten in those springs, made a nest, and they came out and they were not happy, and they chased me and Larry around the yard, screaming and hollering. Oh, and here's another little. The first memory that I have in my brain of when I was a little child is I was about 2, about a year and a half or 2, and I was running through Grandma's house with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and Larry was chasing me.
Okay.
I think he was trying to get the sandwich or something. Anyway, he was chasing me around the house, and that's the first memory I have.
It's your very first one
of when I was young.
Running around with peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I got a friend who claims he can remember being born. Says I can remember being warm and wet, and then coming out of this dark tunnel, and then a big bright light. I said, "You got to be kidding me!"
I've heard of that. Like, that's like a phenomenon.
Said, yeah,
I've heard there's a very small pocket of human beings that actually have that recollection. For whatever reason, their brain captured that moment and remembered it. I don't know how. It's like one of those weird phenomenon occurrences that only happens with maybe 10 people in the entire history of mankind,
Yeah,
It's so rare they have to like record it, and capture the stories. But
yeah,
yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy that you knew
yeah.
somebody that remembered that. Wow.
Anyway, getting back, my the now Larry claims that Grandma uh, evicted him from the house, and she said he couldn't come in the house anymore. How I'm not sure because he was like 5 years older than me. So he was
Okay.
like like almost like first grade. So I guess he could have taken care of himself outside, and I don't know. But that was what Larry had this like really uh, unusual memory of me and our relationship. And
Hmm.
I just some story, the bee story in the mattress. I verified that, and but I didn't never verified him being evicted from the house. But
Yeah, I don't think.
maybe it's after he was chasing me with the peanut butter sandwich, the
Maybe.
butter jelly sandwich. Maybe that. Oh, you made Skippy drop his sandwich. Oh, by the way, my nickname when I was younger was Skippy, and
That's
my
right.
brother, my older brother, good old Larry, was the one that gave me the nickname, and I never could. He never told me if it was a peanut butter. Now they used to have Skippy dog food, so I said,
Okay.
was it the dog food or the peanut butter that you named me after? I don't know.
Maybe it was
Yeah,
the peanut butter.
hopefully
I'm
it was
sure
a
it was
peanut.
the peanut butter.
Anyway, yeah, I was Skippy, and yeah.
And they called you that all the way up until you were in the military, right? Because I think they even
Well,
called you
no,
Snoopy in the
I was
military.
about 12. When I was about
Oh, okay.
12, that's kind of a weird story there because I was about 12 when we moved from. Uh, I changed schools at about 12, and I said, "Well, I'm going to change my name," because I moved from. That's when I moved from Georgia to Wisconsin. So I said, "Well, I'm going to, we're moving to Wisconsin, so I'm not be Skip anymore. I'm going to be Duck." Now I was about 13, maybe. Anyway,
Okay.
so I get to Wisconsin, and my best friend in Wisconsin was Skip Hansen. So if I would have kept Skippy
Uh,
nickname, we would have been the Skip Brothers. You know?
don't want that.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah,
Too much,
it was
too
crazy.
much, too soon.
Yeah.
Moving to a new school, you don't want people teasing you like that. Now, so you guys moved from Burlington. So Grandpa got remarried.
Yeah. He divorced Ruby in '49,
Okay.
and he married Mom Olson in '50.
Virginia.
Virginia,
How did
right?
they meet? Because that story is actually, I like that story how they met. Because it was Grandma that got them together. She was the matchmaker.
Yeah, because I think she wrote Dad. He was there at Hastings. I think he wrote that because he really the Marines they were like gate guards because you're working high explosives and it could have been saboteurs coming in. So they had Marines stationed at all the ammunition depots. There was ammunition depots all over the country, and there was
Okay.
hundreds of Marines stationed at all these different ammunition depots, and and they didn't have any contact really, or they weren't supposed to have any contact with the civilian workers because there was men and women there working in the ammo depot. And Grandma wrote him a letter and said, "Your cousin Ruby Minshaw is working at Hastings plant. Why don't you look her up?" So Grandma did that because he would have never known. He'd have never.
No, he wouldn't. So that's
I don't
how,
think
so
he would have
that's,
ever
so,
known because I don't. I think matter of fact, I think the Marines were encouraged not to mess with the women.
oh,
They're workers. Don't mess with them. Just
so
be a good
Grandpa was a
your
rebel.
job. And yeah, so he could have
A
probably,
rebel.
but it was his cousin. So I think that kind of would have, you know, he's just visiting family. My cousin.
I'm like, yeah, when you're out in the middle of nowhere, you kind of don't. There's not a lot to select from. So But so
Right.
she was a matchmaker for the first for Ruby and your dad's meeting up, which they kind of already knew each other, but then she also did that for Virginia and your dad.
Right.
And
Yeah,
how did
mom.
they
Yeah, Virginia, my stepmom, she was a cosmetologist. She went to beauty school and got her license and everything. And her family, they were migrant farm workers. They were headed for Pueblo. They were from Mississippi, nothing there, so they were starving to death. So got in their car and they drove. They were going to drive down to Pueblo and Rocky Ford down in southern Colorado and pick fruit down there. And
Okay.
they stopped in Burlington, and mom found out about a job available at the local beauty parlor. And so she uh, left the family. The family went on to Pueblo, and she stayed in Burlington, worked at the only beauty shop in town.
Mm-hmm.
That was the one that my grandma would go to, and it was this woman named Dorothy Hammond, and she was like a family friend. They were both in Eastern Star, which is a Masonic. That's the women's auxiliary for the Masonic order, and they were both in Eastern Star, good friends. And Grandma would go there and get her hair done, and then Virginia shows up, and I mean, Mom was very attractive and
It's very beautiful.
innocent little farm girl from southern Mississippi, had that big old accent, and Grandma
Till
kind of
the day
kind
she
of
died,
fell
she
in
had
love with
still
her.
back
Said,
then.
"Oh, she is so cute. I bet Harry would like to like to date her, and all this kind of stuff. And so through Dorothy Hammond and Grandma's somewhere or another, that they got my mom, my stepmom, and my dad together. Virginia married together, and I don't think they dated very long. And
I don't think they did because it was 1949 when your dad got divorced from Ruby, and then it was 1950 when he married Virginia.
right,
So that's I mean, I wouldn't let a pretty girl from Mississippi go if I was, if I was a guy kind of out in the middle of nowhere and she's the prettiest thing in town.
oh yeah, she was. Yeah, she
So,
was. I mean, you don't really realize, what your mother. You really don't. I don't think most boys really. I mean, they love their mothers and everything, but I don't think they really see them in a like a beauty way. I mean, they're
oh,
beautiful
yeah,
because they're
no,
mom,
just
but but the physical beauty is a little different. But I've got pictures of mom when she's like 16 years old. She looked like, I mean, a beauty queen. She was gorgeous.
it's
She
very
got
pretty.
a little older and matured a little bit. She was, and she was like dad's. She was as tall as dad. Dad's only like 5'7", 5'8". She was as tall as he was, and just out. And she was, another thing is she was a Cajun, French Cajun, because
Yes.
her from Mississippi, and she has in her background family tree her great either great or great grandfather was from Canada. He was one of the Acacians that got kicked out of Canada
Oh,
back. The British took over. Anyway, he came down to Mississippi, and he had gotten some money somewhere. He bought a big plantation, got a bunch of slaves together, started growing cotton, uh,
mm,
and that's her family, and
okay.
that's and he was. There's even a town, Saucier, Mississippi, is named after her great grandfather.
Wow, I didn't know her family. I didn't know that her family owned slaves. I had no idea about that. That's crazy.
Oh yeah, that
Yeah,
was a standard thing back then. I mean, this is back
yeah,
in
down in the South like that.
pre-Civil
Yes,
War.
yeah, that's
Back,
how they worked. So, so they moved over to Burlington. Now,
yeah,
so your mom and your dad get married, and then
right.
they moved to Georgia because dad's in the air. Because your grandfather's, I'm
Uh,
sorry, your dad is in the Air Force.
no, No,
So,
that was you're looking way in the future there.
okay.
Yeah, what happened was is Dad was still in the Marine Corps Reserve. He never really got out of the Marines after World War II. He loved the Marines. I mean, he was that was his family was a Marine. And after the war was over, he said, "I'm not, I don't want to stay in active duty. But, got want to go back home and be around family and everything." So he just stays in the reserves. Well, Korean War broke out in 1950, and he was called active duty. This was like later, either late, I think April of 1950 is when the war started. Dad and Mom got married in October. Not sure if he came back from the Marines and got married, or whether he was married and then went in the Marines. But anyway,
Okay.
he got something, some phase. He got recalled to the Marines and went to Camp Pendleton, California, and left me and Mom in Burlington. And so he looked around everywhere, because I mean there was Marines pouring in from all, and Navy guys pouring in from all over the country, coming to the east, the West Coast, and being shipped over to Korea. So there was very little housing for married people. So finally, he found a place in Huntington Beach, which was away. I mean, like probably 50 or 60 miles from
Yeah,
Camp
Huntington
Pendleton.
Beach is far.
And so he found this place and called, he contacted Mom, says, "I found an apartment. Come on out." I guess he sent money or something. Anyway, we went to Denver. Yes, Grandma Olson took us to Denver, and we got on the Silver Zephyr, which is stainless steel monster train, back in
Yeah.
that past, everything was stainless steel. The outside, the inside, everything stainless steel. And we rode to L.A. on the Silver Zephyr, and I can remember Mom verified this. I was like 3, and she said I would start whining that I wanted a drink. So I would, okay. So she'd get up, and there was a water fountain over in a different part of the train where the passenger part was. Gets up, takes me over to the water fountain. I get a drink. 10 minutes later, "Mommy, I gotta go pee." So she had to get up, take me to the bathroom, and and this, she said this went on all the way to Los Angeles. Drink, drink, I said, "Oh, I was a brat."
Get you to go down for a nap, huh?
So yeah, we have actually, I have actually found there was the apartment that Dad found was a garage. There was a garage that the landlady had, and then over the garage was an apartment, like a 1-bedroom apartment, pretty small if I remember right. Like a little kitchen on one end, and then a living room area, and a bedroom on the other end. So it was like
Okay.
maybe like 40, 50 feet long and 20
Wow,
feet wide.
tiny.
Anyway, yeah, and it was, I can remember that there was a window in over on one side of the apartment that looked right down into the yard of the owner. So if she came out in the yard, I could look down there and see her down on the down on the street level.
Yard work and stuff. You can watch her.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a picture of myself. We were right next to the railroad track, and there was, for some reason, it was a wagon wheel with an axle on it, like an old wagon with a wooden wheel, and sitting out in the yard. And I got a picture of me standing on the wheel axle in a cowboy outfit with a hat and, the whole bit, guns and everything. I don't know where we got it. Probably
That's
a Hopalong
awesome.
Cassidy outfit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you guys moved. Did you miss your grandma and your grandpa? Like, because
Oh, yeah, I
yeah.
did. Yeah.
So, because
Grandma,
your grandma kind of raised you.
yeah, she was my surrogate mother for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, And you said she was just a warm, loving person in your life. You
Oh yeah, I
just
got.
so to your grandma and grandpa. So you once described your grandma like coming to your grandma's house was like coming home.
Yep.
It was really, really special. And she'd come running out. And what was that like for you?
It was emotional because I kind of, just wanted to be with her, not be with mom and dad. I didn't, because there was more of a, I guess, a warm fuzzy when you're with somebody you really have a really heavy emotional attachment to. The different, it's different than anything thing.
Right.
Yeah, you just feel like a maternal thing. Like
Well,
this
yeah.
was because Mom B Ruby had basically abandoned me when I was a baby. Went off to do said thing, left me with Grandma, and
Mm-hmm.
so all my early memories are of Grandma and Burlington, and that was home. That was pure and simple. That was my home, and they never could. They stayed there, and Grandma died in '72. So that was 1970. She was born in 1900. So in
Mm-hmm.
'72, she died, and Grandpa lived there until the probably almost 1990,
Wow.
right around there. And then he moved to California with one of his kids, Uncle John. But he,
When did
he
your grandpa
lived
die?
he lived to be like 96, and he when he left he was, I think, 88. He finally went out to California, and he was mowing his grass and doing his own cooking and everything. He would take care of himself at 88. So
That's pretty
yeah,
good.
but with Grandma, it was like, I'm getting back to that. It was just a very, I just felt that when I got to Burlington. Matter of fact, Burlington had this huge greenhouse. Thing was probably 60, 70 feet high. It was big, old time concrete, massive wheat uh, bio, what is it? Elevator, wheat elevator.
Okay.
Uh, and that you could see that because eastern Colorado is pretty flat. So you
Yes,
could
it
see that
is.
for
It's
15
very
miles,
flat.
20 miles away, sticking up out of the prairie. And man, I would be sitting in that car. And when I seen that grain elevator,
Like you knew. It's time to go home. Yeah. So your grandma, um, did you ever get back to visiting her after you left
oh
as a
yeah,
kid?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I did much as I could, because I was in the military for Navy. I got a picture of myself and my one of my cousins. My cousin was in the Army. He was in 82nd Airborne, Vietnam. There's a picture of me and my cousin J Bob. His name's John Roberts. We call him J Bob. And J Bob and me standing with Grandma in the middle, and he's like 6'4", and I'm by 5'10", but still he was like
Yeah.
dominated. I get on him sometimes. Say, yeah, he's coming here and bullying me and not letting me get around Grandma. No, I didn't do that.
You and
Yeah,
J Bob. Well,
yeah.
those are some
But
fun stories
I
right
got
there.
a
I'll tell
picture.
you what.
Yeah, I got a picture of us before we deployed to Vietnam, and yeah, it was.
That's neat
We
that you both
out.
lived through that. That you both
Yeah,
survived that. as cousins. I
Yeah,
think that would have been neat if you guys would have been able to be together out there. Or maybe it would have been harder, more difficult, if anything would have happened. But
yeah. It would
yeah,
have been
we're
very
proud of our
cool.
grandsons,
Yeah, and we were.
sending them
I was
off
the
to
oldest.
serve the
I
country.
was the oldest grandchild, and J. Bob was the next oldest grandchild. So number one and
Yeah,
number two. And
her
yeah,
favorite.
he lived with his family. He lived in Burlington for years with his family back when he was a kid, and he felt the same way about Grandma as I did. He just
Just loved her so much. Yeah, that's cool. That's really neat. You don't see that a lot. Sometimes you don't see that a lot in a family. Now, what I think is interesting about the relationship that you had with your grandmother, you were not very close with your parents. Because you said that your mom and dad were kind of just on their own agenda, kind of just living their lives and doing their own thing. And it was kind of like, it was almost as if you were strangers in a house. And
yep,
that's why being at your grandmother's or having that relationship with your grandmother was so important in your life, was such, had such an impact on you in your life.
yep, yeah. My dad was always really into his work, military,
Very dedicated.
because that when 1950 when Dad was recalled in the Marines, or might even been 51. He won, but anyway, when he went back into the Marines, that was that became his life. He was there how much during the day, a whole lot. Because well, he had to drive like 2 hours to work every day
Mhm.
on Blood Alley, called Highway 101, which ran down the coast. California called it Blood Alley because there were so many Marines who got killed on that road. It's a two-lane
Oh,
road. All these Marines rushing back and forth and all all the
oh,
stuff.
yes.
These Marines are
Oh
just
my God.
on the highway.
I didn't know
They
that. That's horrible.
it, good enough driver. He didn't get in any accidents that I know of. And, he was either driving to and from Pendleton or probably exhausted, sleeping. And really didn't really remember him that we did anything together ever in California. I was It was me in Virginia, and we lived like a quarter of a mile from the beach in Huntington. And we would walk down to the beach every day, just about. Some days it's foggy and nasty, but on the
Mhm.
nice days we'd walk down to the beach and do the beach thing. And we had by the way, here's an aside. There
Okay.
was another Marine family named the Broadbecks, and it was a man, like kind of like me, that had one kid, man, his wife, and daughter. The Broadbecks lived in Huntington Beach too, also because, like I said, about the closest available housing. So, and they were Marine wives, and so they kind of gravitated to each other, and they became very good friends. They stayed they stayed in contact for probably 30 or 40 years after we lived in
Oh,
California.
wow. That's a long
Anyway, their
time.
daughter, we would go down. I've got pictures of me and their daughter down on the beach playing in the sand, and her name was Emily.
Fast forward, you marry an Emily.
That's right.
You're like, I'm going to find an Emily, whether it's this Emily or another Emily. That's awesome. Those Emilys, let me tell you, there's some good folks right there.
Yeah. Well,
So
yeah, she was a brunette, so I married a blonde
you
Emily.
had to get a blonde. You had to get a blonde.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. That's a long time to have a friendship with somebody, lifelong friendship. And I know
Yeah.
she really, I remember as a kid, uh Virginia, Grandma Olson, would keep in contact with all of her friends for years because she got Christmas letters. She was very adamant about writing letters to her friends, more than even phone calling. So I remember her getting letters because I would check her mail for her. She would get letters for years from friends, and I'd ask her who they were. Oh, this is a friend from years ago, and she just always stayed in contact with them. So that's pretty cool. Now,
Yeah.
I know like back in the 1950s, kids were they were more to be seen but not heard. Like and that's just kind of how that relationship that you would have
Yeah.
with a parent. And but I think that was more kind of part of your family's kind of the relationship that you had in your family more than
Yeah.
maybe more than others.
Yeah. Not
So
so much with mom, but with dad, it was definitely seen and not heard.
yeah, he's just an old Marine,
Yeah.
trying to raise his kid.
And
Now,
he had five brothers and sisters. Hell, he had four brothers and a sister, and so
okay,
he was probably burned out on kids
probably.
because he was the oldest son. So I'm sure he had babysitting, to take care
Oh yeah,
of the brothers and his younger sister. So he
take care.
was. I mean, he probably had, changed diapers. I don't know, maybe not, but I think he was probably pretty burned out on kids. I mean,
I can
overall,
understand that.
yeah,
I can definitely understand that.
yeah.
So we're just about out of time, but I did want to. I remember this story from when you were a kid in Georgia, and it had to do with a bicycle and a poisonous snake that you ran over. Do you remember that story?
Oh yeah. See, where we
So I
lived in
want you to tell that story.
the snake capital of America. We were like 50 miles from the Okefenokee Swamp, which is a big like a swamp area in southern Georgia. And there was gators. You could hear from our house. You could hear alligators croaking, and there was snakes everywhere. And there were a lot of big eastern diamondback rattlesnakes and big moccasins, coral snakes, and then they had timber rattlers, a lot of timber rattlers. Uh, anyway, I'd ride my bicycle around and go to the swimming pool and stuff. And I was down this one area where there was like a swampy area down between us and the Air Force Base, and these snakes would come out on the road to bake in the sun. And I was riding my bicycle one day, and it was a big old diamondback laying all the way across the road. He's probably 6, 7 feet long, and he's just laying there in the sun. And for some reason, I rode over his head, and I pinned his head underneath the front tire of my bicycle. And this snake is going crazy. And so pretty soon, I've been there for like 5 minutes or so. This old boy comes along in a pickup truck, and he says, "You got yourself a problem there, don't you, boy?" I said, "Yes, sir. I got myself a rattlesnake. I don't know what to do with him." He said, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna run my back tire over the tail of that snake, and when I tell you, you back off that snake, okay?" I said, "Yes, sir." So he comes in, maneuvered around, and got the snake's body up underneath the back tire of the truck. He said, "Okay," and I backed up, and he hit the accelerator, and that snake went blah, 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 up around, and the wheel went blah, 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 and it flung out in the weed. And I said, "Okay,
Oh
got rid
my
of that
gosh!
snake."
Like that old boy came along, you would have been sitting
Yeah, I
there
don't
for a
know how
long
long I
time trying to
sat
figure
there
out what
with
you're gonna do.
my tire on that snake, but I was afraid that if I backed off, he would come after me. 'Cause
Oh
he's
yeah,
big. Yeah, he's big.
he'll chase you.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever seen, these snakes, they're probably as six 7-footer. Because I mean, he was halfway across the road. He was big.
Yeah,
There were a
huge.
lot of big snakes there because there was so many snakes in southern Georgia that the tourist camp down in Florida they would have these reptile farms down there, and they would milk snakes. They'd have this snake guy would get down in a pit with his snake boots on, and he would grab a rattler, and then he had a little cup with a rubber top on it. He'd stick the fangs on there, to get the poison out of the snake, and they would come to Georgia to get our snakes, take them to Florida.
Ah, they're like, you got some hot diggers down there. We want to add it to our collection. Woo! They probably still have some pretty big snakes down there, I'm sure. But that was one of my favorite stories. I really liked that, hearing that story when I was growing up. I ran over a snake when I was a big 8-foot rattler. That thing would chase me down the road if that old boy one would come along.
I might still be sitting there with a bicycle tire and a snake.
That was, yeah, skeleton on a bike, you know. So that's about all we have for this week. We're out of time, but we had a good time telling some fun stories, and we'll be back next Friday to just keep on talking about your fun, adventurous life and just one life that has been lived. So thank you everybody for joining us this week, and we'll definitely have our favorite guest back next week, Dad. And we hope you all are safe out there. Please watch out for all the crazy drivers, and please be careful yourselves and take care of yourselves and take care of your families, and remember to love each other. So, and we will see you next week.